By what name are you known?
There are some who call me Tim.
Welcome to another episode of Timmy Talks, the channel where we talk old school magic. And today I am playing a game against brand new patron Adrian. Adrian, welcome to the show. You're bringing a mono black deck to the table, and I am bringing my Eureka deck back onto the channel. And maybe a nice thing to note here is that we're playing according to the gentleman's rules, meaning no Mind Twist and no Library of Alexandria. So that's in neither of our decks. And we're playing according to the Swedish rules, by the way, meaning no mana burn, no fallen empires, and only one strip mine. Okay, now before we start with the deck text, I would first like to point out that as always, you can also choose to first go to the games, check out the deck text later. I know some people prefer to do this. The easiest way to do this is by checking out the description below, because there you will find several timestamps. One of the timestamps reads MTG Games. So just click on MTG Games and it'll take you straight to the games. And in that same description below, you can also find a link to the Timmy Talks Patreon page, because yes, I've got my very own Patreon program, and that is patreon.com/TimmyTalks. So if you enjoy the content that I make, please consider becoming a patron. It already starts for just $1 a month. Okay, and now that you're fully informed, I'm going to start with the deck text. I'm going to start with the player on the left. Let's take a look at his mono black deck. And here we see the deck of Adrian. So this is mono black. And what I find interesting about mono black is that the list has kind of evolved. Like, one of the biggest changes I've seen in mono black throughout the years that I'm playing old school now, which is about 6 or 7, I think, is that people have started playing Underworld Dreams in these lists. And rightfully so, in my opinion, because Underworld Dreams is a guaranteed source of damage for your opponent, right? It's an enchantment for 3 black. That reads, whenever your opponent draws a card, he or she takes the damage for each card drawn. So it's really good at punishing, kind of control decks, card draw decks like the deck, but also my Eureka deck, actually, which loves to draw cards. It punishes cards like Sylvan Library. So I think it's quite good, and also fits into the mono black strategy, because mono black usually, wants to, get an early hippie out or an early Black Knight, turn the creature sideways, deal early damage. And then if at the same time you've got that single point or double points of damage from Underworld Dreams coming in for your opponent, it just puts a lot of pressure on your opponent's life total. So I think that's a very good strategy. Then there are some other cards in this deck that I kind of want to highlight, because you don't see them that often in mono black decks. I think Evil Presence is really an interesting choice. It's 1 black for an enchant land that turns target land into a basic swamp. I think that's interesting, right? I think Evil Presence, maybe it's a little bit overlooked, because in old school Magic, there are so many good lands, non-basic lands, and you can take them out with an Evil Presence. I really like that. Usually Evil Presence is used in a deck where you also see a lot of Swamp Walk, but I kind of like it in here as an experiment, kind of 2 Evil Presences. So that's a card that I'm going to keep an eye out in this match to see how good it is. Is it going to work? I think I'm playing 4 color, so I think it could be quite good against my deck. We also see 4 Sinkhole, so he's got a lot of ways to kind of deal with annoying lands like Maze of Ith, like Mishra's Factory, like a Pendelhaven, cards like that, or maybe even just a City of Brass, because it can make any color of mana. Talking about City of Brass, we also see City in a Bottle here, main, a single City in a Bottle. And I like it, that you play with a lot of these silver bullets if you have access to Demonic Tutor, right? So this Demonic Tutor means that every 1-off becomes basically a 2-off, right? Because when you draw into your Demonic, you can choose which of these 1-offs you want to pick. And I think most of the 1-offs can be quite decisive. We see a Drain Life, that can be quite good for obvious reasons. We see a single Dark Ritual, which is interesting. For the longest time, 4 Dark Rituals really was the standard in mono black. And now you see people kind of experimenting with that amount. I think, in my opinion, 1 is a bit too low. I would at least go for 2, maybe for 3 even, also depending on how many Drain Lives you play. I think Drain Life and Dark Ritual can be quite good together. So that also depends. And of course, here Adrian is only playing with a single Drain Life, so maybe that's the reason why he's only going for a single Ritual. But of course, Ritual can also help you to ramp out the Underworld Dreams. And of course, you've got the classic Dark Ritual into Hippie. That choice, for me, it always depends on what kind of deck I'm playing against. If I'm playing against a deck that has access to red and white, for example, I wouldn't go for Ritual into Hippie, because I'm just, the risk is too big of running into a Bolt and a Swords, and then you're setting yourself back 2 cards for just 1 card of your opponent. Now, there's one other card that I want to highlight here in the main 60, and that is Pestilence. Pestilence, 2 black and 2 for an enchantment. Pay 1 black, deal 1 damage to each creature and each player. I think Pestilence is often overlooked. I think it's a really good card, and I'm really curious to see it in action here. And I think for Pestilence, it's kind of the same thing as that I said about Underworld Dreams. When you've already got pressure on your opponent with your early creatures, and of course your land destruction, so you're probably winning the tempo game. These cards can be really good because you're probably going to get your opponent quite low very quickly, and then the Pestilence can be a nail in the coffin for your opponent. And then I also want to take a quick look at the sideboard because there are some interesting choices there. We see 4 Ivory Towers and 4 Vices, so I think it's kind of a control black build that Adrian can go for as well. Against certain decks, that could be a better option. We also see 3 Royal Assassins in the side. Royal Assassin, it's going to be tough here for Adrian to decide if he wants to board those in or not. I mean, they're good against a lot of my creatures. Then again, they only have 1 toughness, so they die to my Trikes quite easily. So, that's always a bit of a hard choice. The Terrors, I would definitely board in after the first game. Then again, I do understand why you choose Paralyze over Terror in your main 60. I think in your main 60, especially when you play Land Destruction, Paralyze would also have my preference over the Terror. But anyway, this is the deck of Adrian. Now let's take a look at my deck. And this is my deck, Eureka Roads. So Eureka Roads is built around Eureka, and I've also combined it with Concurrent Crossroads. So maybe start with Eureka. Eureka is a sorcery for 2 green and 2 from Legends that reads, starting with you, each player may put a permanent card from their hand onto the battlefield. Repeat this process until no one puts a card onto the battlefield. So Eureka is really good when you combine it with expensive permanents, and usually people combine it, like me, with expensive creatures. Now, I'm also playing with Concurrent Crossroads, and this combination is quite important because Concurrent Crossroads is an enchant world for just 1 green, also from Legends, that gives all your creatures haste. So if I have a Eureka and a Concurrent Crossroads in hand, and just a lot of big creatures, I can play my Eureka with Eureka, play my Crossroads, my big creatures, and I can attack the turn they come into play, so potentially win the turn they come into play, or put my opponent on a 2-turn or a 3-turn clock. So Concurrent Crossroads is quite an important component of the deck, I feel, because it gives your opponent less time to get back from a Eureka. And of course, what I want to cast here with the Eureka, by the way, are the big creatures, right? Playing a playset of Shivans, playset of Triskelion, playset of Urnham Jins, and also Nicol Bolas and the Solkanar, the Swamp King. So the dream of the deck is actually to have a Eureka, a Concurrent Crossroads, and a Nicol Bolas in hand, because then I can cast my Bolas, attack with it the turn it comes into play, and Nicol Bolas says when it deals damage to the opponent, the opponent discards his or her entire hand. So I can just annihilate the hand of my opponent very quickly with that Eureka, Crossroads, Nicol Bolas combination. And yes, I know Nicol Bolas has an upkeep cost, which probably I won't be able to pay. Maybe in some circumstances I will, but if I won't, then at least I've taken out the entire hand of my opponent before Nicol Bolas dies. And I mean, it's also just cool to play with Nicol Bolas, right? He's the OG bad guy of Magic. It's a kick to play with this card. I'm gonna be honest. Old school Magic is more than just building a good deck. It's also about nostalgia. It's about playing with the cards that you always wanted to play with when you were a kid. When I was 11, when I was a little Timmy in 1995, these were the cards I dreamed of owning and playing with, and now I put them together in the deck. So for me, that's also a huge component when I'm building my old school decks. Now, when I'm just looking at a purely functional point of view at this deck, what's really tricky is how are you going to make this deck work if you don't draw into your Eureka, right? How are you going to do this? And I think the answer to that is make sure that you also have some creatures that you can cast without your Eureka, and I think that's where Urnham Jin comes in. Urnham Jin is just 1 green and 3 to cast, so very cheap and only 1 green, making it quite easy to cast. I'm also playing with Older Moxen, playing with Flowerstone Soul Ring. So even without Eureka, I'll probably be able to put some early pressure on. Hopefully, I'll draw into some card draw or card selection cards like Sylvan, like Time Twister. Those cards are really important because they help me find the components I need. Because basically, this Eureka Roads deck kind of plays like a combo deck, right? You need specific components. Once you have them, you need the right timing, and then you can win the game, right? That's it. So, and that sounds very easy, but for me at least, it's quite difficult to pilot. I'm really getting used to playing with so many powered cards, so many restricted cards in a deck. For example, whenever I draw a Demonic Tutor, I've got so many choices to make that it's kind of hard. It's not an auto choice of Demonic Tutor, Ancestral Recall, draw some extra cards. No, in a lot of cases, Demonic Tutor here is that piece of the puzzle that leads to the final piece of the puzzle that could give you the victory. So it's really a deck, for me at least, that makes me think. And then there are also 2 cards in the sideboard that I want to highlight because they all almost made it main board, but I just couldn't find a place for them because I didn't know what to take out. And that's Sword of the Ages and Mirror Universe. So Mirror Universe, of course, is great because it can swap life totals. Because what can happen with this deck is I'm going a little bit slow maybe compared to my opponent. And then I'm down on life. So with Mirror Universe that I can cast quite easily with my Eureka, I can swap life totals and kind of get back into the race, maybe finish it with a Triskelion. And then another card I really like is Sword of the Ages. Sword of the Ages is an artifact from Legends that allows me to sack my creatures and then deal damage equal to all the power combined of those sacrificed creatures. And this is a way to work around Circle of Protection Red. Although I'm not all too worried about Circle of Protection Red, I guess it's also a way to work around cards like Arborea, just all sorts of cards that make it really tough to attack, like maybe Moat. I can still deal tons of damage if I combine all my creatures with the Sword of the Ages, and especially with Shivan Dragon, because Shivan Dragon can pump its power as well for 1 red, so it's kind of almost an indirect fireball if you do Sword of the Ages with Shivan Dragon, which is pretty funny. I think it's pretty funny. Anyway, this is my deck. We looked at the deck of my opponent, so that means we are ready. Let's go to the games. Game number 1, here we go. On the left side, we have Adrian playing a mono black, and on the right, I am playing with my Eureka deck. And look at this, taking a double mulligan, going down to 5 cards in hand. Oh, okay, taking one back. It looks like I'm having a tough choice deciding what to put on the bottom of the library. Now we're playing according to the London mulligan rule, meaning if you take a mulligan, you can draw 7 cards, but then you have to put 1 card on the bottom. If you take 2 mulligans like I did, you have to take 2 cards on the bottom. Look at this start though, very explosive. Black Lotus Taiga and then into an Urnum. So I'm kind of going all in here with that Urnum. Only 2 cards left in hand, only 2 cards. I'm just going to repeat it. And of course, Adrian, after the draw, he has access to 8 cards in his hand. So yeah, let's see what he can do. A basic swamp. Are we going to see a ritual? Nope, just a pass. So at least I can attack for a turn. Playing a City of Brass, attacking for 4, putting Adrian here on 16. And it looks like I'm going to do something else. Okay, there's a Chaos Orb. You know what? This is not too bad, considering I only started with 5 cards in hand. Maybe I can just win it. Who knows? 1 card left, though. So let's see. If Adrian can, for example, find a Mace, that would be pretty bad for me. He is in the tank, it seems. Under pressure, going to tap 2. Okay, there's a Black Knight. So Black Knight, of course, is going to get Forest Walk here by the Urnum. And there we see is another tropical island. And there's the attack for 4. Exactly. For a moment there, I thought it was passing the turn, which would be quite odd. Of course, I'm attacking. Putting Adrian now on 12. So my Ernie has dealt 8 points of damage. That's pretty sweet. Could have considered, by the way, flipping here on the swamp to kind of try to slow my opponent down, but decided not to. He's going to play a Mishra's Factory here, and oh, Paralyzed. This is a really good card, actually, because I need 4 mana to untap. I only have access to 3. This is really good. Oh, that Paralyzed. There's the attack for 2. Going to drop to 17. Of course, took a damage earlier from my own City of Brass, but yeah, this is really good. I am going to flip. Am I going to flip on a Factory maybe? Because then I take out a creature and a land at the same time. Let's see. The flip hits. Oh, and the Paralyze, of course. Yeah, of course, because I want to continue attacking. That makes more sense. And then I have a blocker. There's the attack. I'm going to put Adrian here on 8. Not another land, though. Passing the turn. And then, of course, next turn, Adrian could double block with the Factory and the Knight. Which is a concern for me. Looks like he's going to tap the Factory, though. And, okay, there's a Demonic Tutor. Uh-oh. Is he going to look up another Paralyze? That would be funny. I mean, Paralyze is really good against me at this moment. Because remember, he plays Terror, but he plays it in the sideboard, not in the main. So actually a paralyze wouldn't be all that bad. He could play it straight away. And he could just continue attacking with the Black Knight. I mean, I'm still pretty high in life though, but I mean, he's on 8. I think it's really important for him to take care of the Urnum. Another thing that could be good, but he already had a land drop, right? This turn would be like a Mazeviv. He's going to tap 2. Okay, so I wonder what he looked up. Oh, this is even better. Of course, he plays with a single city in a bottle. Oh, this is devastating. This is devastating. I think, Adrian, this is going to give you the victory. I mean, yes, you're on 8, but you're still on 8. My deck is super slow. Only 2 cards, well, 3 cards in hand. Okay, finding a Sylvan. Not too bad of a top deck. I have to be honest with that. So 2 cards left in hand, 15 life. But now you can also attack with your factory, so you can deal 4 turn. Or maybe you've got better options. It's also, of course, playing with the playset of Suchi. So just attacking with the Black Knights. I'm expecting there to be a creature being cast second main. Yeah, there's the Suchi. That means I'm on a 2-turn clock. I need something like a miracle. This is where balance really shines, but I'm not playing with white. I mean, maybe a draw 7, you know? Finding a land and a Time Twister. Okay, finding a Mox Sapphire. Can I play Wheel of Fortune Time Twister? Nope. Just passing the turn back. I think after this, I've got one last turn to do something. It's looking really good here for Adrian. He's going to go in here for 8, I assume. Put me on 5. Going to tap 2 black first. Does he maybe have a Sinkhole? That would be even better. Yeah, this is so good, this Sinkhole. Because, I mean, if you look at my deck list, a lot of cards are very expensive to cast. And I think the land destruction has really did his job here for Adrian in the first game. There's the attack. Put me on 5. Oh, man. My last turn. Let's see what I can do. Nope, that's it. Dropping down the cards. And game number 1, you're won by Adrian. And yeah, that city in a bottle was really good. And of course, I had to go down to 5. So hopefully in game number 2, I can just start with a fresh 7 instead of mulling down to 5 cards in hand. Game number 2, here we go. So 1 game up for Adrian. That means I'm on the plate. And it looks like I'm not taking a mulligan, starting with 7 cards. That already feels good. Let's see what I can do. Is Adrian also keeping? I believe he is. So starting with an Underground Sea and just a pass. No Moxa, no crazy shenanigans for me. Let's see what Adrian can do. Starting with a Swamp. Passing the turn. There is a Taiga. Are we going to see a Sylvan? I guess we're not. It looks like I'm just passing the turn as well. Are we going to see a Sinkhole here? I'm a little bit afraid of that land destruction. My deck doesn't like land destruction, especially when I'm not drawing into Moxen. I mean, sometimes you can play underneath it because you've got enough mana rocks, but, you know, as you can see, I'm not drawing any mana rocks at the moment. So here we see a Demonic Tutor. Very quickly chose his card. I wonder which one it is. I'm going to draw my card for turn. Let's see what I can do. Maybe I'm waiting for him to be finished with the shuffling. Putting the cards back together. Oh, did I miss a land drop here? Oh, I missed a land drop. Oh, no. This is not what I need. Oh, this is bad. Is he going to now play, for example, Hypnotic Spectre? That would be quite good. Tapping 3 black, so it could be a Hypnotic Spectre. No, it's an Underworld Dreams. Also very annoying, because remember, I'm playing with a lot of draw cards. Especially Sylvan gets so bad when there's an Underworld Dreams on the table. So I'm going to drop here to 19. Finding a land. Okay, that's really good. To City of Brass. Passing the turn, though. Oh, man, I'm not feeling great here. Already 1 game behind, remember, and Adrian is doing quite well. Tapping 4. Yeah, there's a Suchi. Oh, man. That is bad. I wonder if I boarded in some Control Magics. Perhaps I boarded out the Urnums because I saw the city in a bottle. Exactly, boarding Control Magics, yeah. It's kind of what I usually do if I see a city in a bottle in the first game and my opponent is playing a creature-heavy deck. I would take the Urnums out and replace it for control magics, which is not ideal because control magic is harder to cast, but it is, of course, a nice 2-for-1, especially against mono black. Control magic is really strong because, of course, Adrian has, you know, not really a good way to deal with enchantments. I guess his Chaos Orb is the best way to deal with an enchantment when you are on mono black. There's a Paralyze, though, talking about enchantment, so tapping down my Suchi. And also putting more pressure on the board. Oh, this is quite good. Hypnotic Spectre. This could be problematic. Of course, taking a damage again from the Underworld Dreams, already on 16. Deciding not to untap the Suchi, by the way. Keeping it tapped, playing a Flower Stone. And, oh, there's a Lightning Bolt. Also a card that comes in from the sideboard, playing 3 Lightning Bolts in the side. Actually against cards like Hypnotic Spectre, but also against cards like Preacher. You know, there are a lot of, like, annoying cards with 1 or 2 toughness that you really want to deal with a Lightning Bolt. Of course, Hypnotic Spectre is probably the card that you see the most in that category. Passing your turn back to Adrian, and I have to say I'm quite impressed with the Paralyze. It did a great job in game 1, and it's doing a great job now in game number 2. There's a Black Knight for Adrian. Looks like he's going to do something else as well. Okay, there's an Evil Presence. Probably going to take out... Oh, I thought he would be taking out maybe my City of Brass, but maybe he likes it that I'm taking damage for it every single turn, almost, you know. Let's see if I'm going to untap my Suchi. Would make sense, though. Deciding not to do it. Going to go to 15, so I guess I've got a better option. Going to tap 5. Again, a damage here from the City of Brass. Going to go to 14. And, oh, Solkanar the Swamp King. Yeah, this card is so good against mono black decks. A 5/5 with Swamp Walk, so basically unblockable. And I gain a life whenever a black spell is being cast. So that can be me casting it or my opponent, doesn't matter. But I get a life every single turn. Of course, Adrian's deck is full of black spells. So that's a really good answer, actually, against that Underworld Dreams. And also, because it's got black in the casting cost, you cannot play a Terror on it. Of course, you can play a Paralyze on it, which would still be very annoying. So let's see if he's got another one of those. Or maybe a Sengir Vampire that flies, playing 2 Sengirs in the main 60. There's another Swamp. Tapping the Swamp. Oh, another Paralyze. Yeah, that's annoying. I am gaining a life, though. Going to go up to 15. But yeah, this is annoying. There's the attack with the Knight, dropping to 13. Ay, 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 ay. This is so annoying, those Paralyzes. Does he also have some land destruction? Looks like he's thinking about it, but deciding to pass. So I am going to untap here the Solkanar, so need to tap 4 lands to do that. Well, 3 lands and a Felwar in this case. Can also drop to 12 because of the Underworld Dreams. There's a Ruby. Yeah, this is an interesting second game. Passing the turn. The moment in the game where I missed my land drop and Adrian played a Demonic Tutor, I felt so bad, but I'm still in it. And that Solkanar is really, really good. So I wonder if you're Adrian, what you're thinking about. Of course, every time you cast a black spell, you're giving me a life, so you have to be critical about what you play. It's going to tap 2 black. Ooh, there's a City in a Bottle. Oh, that's annoying because it takes out my City of Brass, and I really need that for mana purposes. And I'm going to untap the Suchi here. Drop to 11, so probably means that I want to swing in with Solkanar, which makes sense because it's a 5/5, so playing a Volcanic first. Yeah, attacking here with Solkanar the Swamp King. Going to put Adrian on 15. Passing the turn back to him. And I mean, with the untapped Suchi, I can stop the Black Knight, so that's fine. I could just, untap the Solkanar again next turn and just attack, I mean, you only need 3 more attacks with the Solkanar. Let's see what Adrian can do in his turn. He's going to tap a Swamp. What is it? We can't see it. Oh, now we can. Another Evil Presence. Ooh, what would you take out here? Yeah, probably exactly. She took out the first Taiga. Make sure I don't have access to green. Now remember, of course, Adrian doesn't know that I'm playing Eureka. He hasn't seen that card at all, so he needs to make this decision without that knowledge. Look at this. I'm keeping my Solkanar tapped. This is interesting. Dropping to 11, of course, because of the Underworld Dreams. Deciding not to untap the Solkanar. That's a bit surprising. Probably means that maybe I've got a Shivan Dragon in hand because I've got access to 2 red, of course, with the Ruby. Tapping 6 in total. Yep, there's the Shivan Dragon 5/5 flyer. And for 1 red, you can give it +1/+0. And yeah, it's looking worse and worse for Adrian. And I am going to attack her with the Tsuchi. I mean, if Adrian takes the damage, and he does, he'll drop to 11. Does it mean that maybe he's got a terror or something else? Yeah, he's got a terror against the Shivan. Okay, so I'm going to go up to 12, but yeah, it means the Shivan is going to die, and he can attack with the Black Knight, put me on 10. Yeah, this terror was really important for Adrian. Without the terror, he would have been dead next turn. Oh, there's a mace. Yeah, this is really good. This Maze of If is really good for Adrian. There's the attack, put me on 10. Oh man, this is going to be tricky. I thought the Shivan would get me there, but yeah, this was a really good turn. Look at that, not even untapping it. Another Taiga. Does it mean I have more firepower in my hand? Now remember, my deck's chock full of strong creatures. Gonna tap 6 again. Another Shivan perhaps. No Triskelion this time, but it's also a really good card. I can of course use the Trike to kill the Black Knight. There's no real need to do that though. And of course, Trike, a 1/1 creature for 6, but comes into play with 3 +1/+1 counters, and you can remove them from the Trike to deal 1 damage to any target. So Adrian here on 11. There's a Soul Ring for him. That's not a big deal for me. I do think Adrian is doing a great job at staying alive. But it's going to be really, really difficult for him. I guess I'm going to untap the Solkanar here. First take damage, drop to 8. Not untapping it though. Do I have more big creatures in my hand? The thing is that the Eureka deck really starts to work if you don't draw into Eureka as soon as you hit like 6 mana. That's a sweet spot. Because then you can start out to play your Shivans, you can play out your Trikes, and there's a full playset of both in the deck. There's another Trike. Yeah, and now it's going to be quite problematic here actually for Adrian. Because remember, the Trike is also 3 points of direct damage. So this is already 6 points of direct damage on board, and if I then untap the Solkanar, the thing though is that Adrian still has that Maze of If. That's kind of keeping him alive. But it's looking very bad for him. I wonder if I'm gonna kill the Black Knight. Look at this, again deciding not to untap the Solkanar. Do I have a better option then? Do I have even more creatures in my hand that I want to play out? I mean, I can definitely just attack with both of my Triskelions. He can send one back, take 4, go to 7. I'm gonna tap 4. Oh, I'm gonna steal it. Got a Black Knight stolen and tapping a green as well. What are we gonna see for 1 green? Oh, Concordant Crossroads. Oh, yeah. That means I can attack with the Black Knight the turn it comes into play, because Concordant Crossroads gives all my creatures haste, and I think that's a win actually. Because he can use the Maze against one of the Trikes, then he takes 6 damage, goes to 5, then I can take the counters off. Yeah, moving my cards here to make sure that Adrian can see everything. I think this is a win. Unless Adrian has something, but I mean, he cannot terror these creatures. Gonna use the Maze now, sending back one of the Trikes. Gonna take 6, drop to 5, and I can finish it with the counters, I think. Question marks. Gonna go to 5. That's it. Okay, winning game number 2. That means it's a 1-1, and we're gonna go to an all-deciding game number 3. Game number 3, the big decider. Adrian, of course, being on the plate. After losing that second game, it's 1-1. Game number 3. And this is exciting stuff. I have to say, the thing with Mono Black though, oh look at that, Adrian is taking a mulligan. So I guess that's good news for me starting with 6. But what I wanted to say is, the thing with mono black though, it's so consistent. And that's always a bit of a concern. And that land removal can be really nasty against me. Starting here with the Taiga myself. Okay, and a Max Sapphire tapping, or we're going to see a Sylvan. Yeah, this is a great start for me. Sylvan really helps me to find the cards I need. Also, I want to get that out before Adrian can potentially cast an Underworld Dreams. Animating going in for 2, that makes sense. Going to drop to 18. Untap, upkeep, and draw. Let's take a look at the first 3 cards, of course, with the Sylvan. If I want to draw an extra card, it's going to cost me 4 life, though. Which is, I think I have to be very conservative because Adrian already has some pressure on board. Now remember, I did board in cards like Lightning Bolt, so if I maybe have a Lightning Bolt into that 3 cards. Taking my time here, yeah, it's hard to decide, at least for me it is. It's quite a complicated deck to play with because you've got so many options and the deck is so explosive. Like, in a way, you want to put all your eggs in one basket, but because that's what the deck does. But on the other hand, you got to think, what kind of deck am I playing against? What can I do? What can't I do? And interestingly here, I'm keeping my Mox Sapphire open. So I wonder if that means that I've got like an Ancestral Recall in hand that I want to maybe cast on end step. Because it would make more sense here to keep a Taiga open to at least pretend to have a Lightning Bolt. Let's first see what Adrian can do here in his 3rd turn. Gonna tap 3. Ooh, there's a Royal Assassin. Okay, that is actually kind of cool. Boarded into Royals from the sideboard. A 1/1 creature, and you can tap it to destroy target tapped creature. So it's quite good against my big creatures, but it's also quite bad against cards like Triskelion, which is also a 4 of in the deck. Gonna tap a Tropical Island. I'm going to tap 4. Are we going to see Eureka? No, a Control Magic. So taking over the Royal Assassin. And I mean, it's so tough for Adrian to deal with black creatures, you know, and artifact creatures in black. I mean, yes, you can play Paralyze on it. That works a little. But, I mean, it is really a 2-for-1, right? A Control Magic. Such a strong card against Mono Black. I think that's probably the biggest problem for Mono Black, right? Control Magic. And what you see a lot, of course, is people splashing white in their black decks. Kind of a Dead Guy Ill, Brew. And then just putting, you know, Swords to Plowshares and Disenchants in their deck. Because it just makes your deck so much stronger. But I do love, like, the classic Mono Black deck. It's very nostalgic. It's very beautiful. And I love a card like Royal Assassin, but... yeah, Adrian kind of getting punished here for playing with that beautiful card. I mean, he's got an attack in here with the factory exactly because the Royal sells Summoning Sickness, so could at least go in for 2. Gonna tap a black as well. I mean, Ritual into Underworld Dreams would be quite good. He also plays with a single drain life, so could drain. Okay, he's gonna paralyze. I mean, that works. Now I've got a choice to make. Do I want to spend most of my mana, most of my resources to untap the Royal, or, well, I guess the answer is given here, right? Untap, upkeep, draw. Already going to my draw phase quite quickly, so deciding to keep the Royal tapped. 16 life. Find the Underground Sea. Deciding not to draw any extra cards. Counting my mana. I mean, I've got 6 mana now. Gonna tap 5 of it. Oh, it's back! Solkanar, the Swamp King. Wow! Such a good card against the deck of Adrian. 5/5 Swamp Walker. We saw it in game 2. Remember, it also gives me 1 life every time a black spell is cast. Now, we do see this Maze of If, which is great. It's gonna stop the Solkanar. So the Mace is a good card here for Adrian. But can he do something else? I feel like the Royal is still a huge problem for him. Because as soon as he plays, let's say he plays Sengir Vampire. He doesn't have the mana for it yet, but let's say he plays it, which is a good card against me at this moment. But I can just untap my Royal and then he cannot really attack with it anymore. Because he's going to lose it then to the Royal. So I feel like maybe, you know, after dealing with the Solkanar with the Maze, the next point of business is try to get rid of that Royal. Playing a Sinkhole here. Gonna gain a life, of course, because of Solkanar. Now the question is, what land does he want to get rid of? I mean, the most important thing of Sinkhole now is that it keeps me away from getting to 6, because as soon as I have 6, I can start playing cards like Shivan and Trike. And interestingly in this match, by the way, is that we haven't seen a single Eureka, right? So, despite the fact that my deck is built around the Eureka, you can see it functions quite well without it. Gonna tap 2. Oh, there's a Chaos Orb. Yeah, I can flip on the maze. Oh, probably what I'm gonna do, right? Gonna activate it, flip on the Maze of If, and that means I can deal at least 5. Gonna put him on 15. Yep, it's a hit. Getting rid of that Maze of If, that's quite important for me. Oh, it's looking bad for Adrian now. Only 1 card left in hand, though. There's the attack for 5, put him on 15. Passing the turn. So, I mean, Adrian at least has another attack for 2, could put me on 15, but losing that Maze is a big problem for him. He's going to attack for 2, put me on 15. Just passes the turn, yeah. This is very problematic. Untap, upkeep, and draw. Going to keep the Royal still tapped. Or not. Choosing to untap it, okay. So I guess the 1 card in hand is not very useful for me at the moment. And of course, a Royal, untapped Royal protects me from taking more damage from that Mishra's factory. Having another look. Taking an extra card. Okay, going to 11. There's the attack. Gonna put him on 10. Playing a duel, and there's a demonic. Okay, so I guess I wanted to do 2 things, right? Also knowing that I wanted to play the demonic, I'm probably like, okay, I'm going to shuffle away the 2 cards at the top. So maybe that 1 card was a demonic, and I wanted to play a land and a demonic tutor in the same turn. I'm on 11 now. Adrian is on 10. And it looks like he's just going to pass. Yeah, it's so tough. Like that maze, he really needed that maze. That's the thing when you play a mono-colored. It's stable. It can be quite good, but you do miss a few things. Like you've got no graveyard recursion, at least not for non-creature cards. In mono black, it's really hard to deal with the enchantments in mono black. So you can really see the weakness here of mono black. There's the attack. Adrian here dropping to 5. There's a time walk. Yeah, I think this is it, right? Time walk. I can take another turn. Yeah, quickly pick a card because I can finish it. There's the attack. That's it. Solkanar the Swamp King, the MVP of this match. Really, really sweet to see. Also having another bolt in hand, which is not very relevant. Oh, and look at that, the Time Twister as well. And of course a counterspell. So probably that last card in hand was a counterspell, the mana drain, to kind of deal with whatever solution Adrian came with. Look at this. Actually had a pretty decent hand, but couldn't get to 4 lands. I mean, that Icy would have been a good answer. Probably would have countered the Icy away, but I mean, there were moments that I completely tapped out, so he could have then cast the Icy. Icy is quite good, actually. Also because I don't play with any cards that can remove an Icy Manipulator. All I can do is steal it with a Steel Artifact. So that would have been really good. So a bit of bad luck here for Adrian to be kind of stuck on lands there. I didn't really notice during the game, but now that I'm looking at his hand, I'm like, oh yeah, of course, you were stuck on 3 mana, which is quite annoying. But thank you, Adrian, for this match. I think it was quite exciting. A 2-1 win for me. And also, of course, even a bigger thank you for supporting the channel as a patron. I appreciate that so much. The patrons is what keeps this channel going. So if you're watching this episode and you're enjoying the content that I make, please consider becoming a patron of the show, supporting the show as a patron. It already starts for just $1 a month. Check out patreon.com/TimmyTalks for more information.
What shall we do with the drunken sailor? What shall we do with the drunken sailor? What shall we do with the drunken sailor? Early in the morning, way hey and up she rises, way hey and up she rises, way hey and up she rises. Early in the morning, putting in the longboat until he's sober, putting in the longboat until he's sober, putting in the longboat until he's sober. Early in the morning, way hey and up she rises.
Igitus, figitus, sumba, kazee.